Today, Brandon has graced us with his presence and his knowledge, and I'm super duper stoked about this. I'm still kind of like I have a little dude crush with you, Brandon. I'm sorry, I'm going to admit that, and I'm okay with that. But I this podcast exists because you agreed to do this episode,
Very
and
cool.
So we had been threatening to do something like this for some time, and. But I know these are questions that I have been asked as well. What does a world, or let's say, what does the United States look like that is primarily a bunch of sovereigns instead of U.S. citizens? Like
That's easy.
How do we get roads built? How do we have law enforcers?
That's
who
easy.
takes us to war?
Study North America between 1776 and 1850. And it'll give you all the answers.
Yes.
Every answer you could ever want. Because what happens is that is the number one priority of the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition. Is if you look at, and I have, I'll show it to you guys because I want people to see this. Someone sent me this. I get sent a lot of horse shit. Every once in a while, somebody send me something cool. Honestly, it's pretty fucking annoying. This one is really fucking cool. Like someone sent me this and I like, oh my God, it was like sex. So if you go on to I have almost the exact same text available on both websites. So if you go to the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition and you go to questions and answers and you go down to the last section here, it's mostly the same text. This one's in black and white. And then the one on WNW is black and kind of like a light blue. Either site has all the information about the 14th Amendment, what happened, what is the history of the 14th Amendment, how it's the most racist fucking thing in the world, and how we've all gotten sucked into it. And then it goes into all the changes that will occur once the 14th Amendment is obliterated. Like, for example, recently, a lot of people have been talking about this Chevron Convention thing.
Yes.
So the Chevron Convention is like 1/1000th of what's going to happen, but it's kind of along the same lines, actually. So take the Chevron doctrine and times it literally by 1,000. And that's what we're going to get once the 14th Amendment is gone. And what's amazing is if you scroll down on a cell phone, these are really clear too. This is actually original. This is what someone sent me. This is an original copy, scanned copy of the Congressional Record, Volume 113, Part 12, from 1967. And they literally say the 14th Amendment, equal protection law or tool of usurpation.
Yes.
And they talk about how it's literally the most evil thing ever. And they talk about how it was never actually legally ratified at all. And this is the Congressional Record of the United States of America. Now, if that's true, which I know it is, if that's true, that means that it's not the 14th Amendment does not need to be repealed because it was never placed into action in the first place. The 14th Amendment is what created the federal U.S. citizen category. So prior to 1870, 1871, there was no U.S. citizen category. George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and all the good old boys, none of those individuals were ever U.S. citizens. The U.S. citizen category did not exist until 1871. Now, from that fake U.S. citizen, it's actually U.S. citizen means federal employee of the government. The whole idea of public versus private was literally born out of the 14th Amendment. Prior to the 14th Amendment, the idea of public, I mean, almost didn't really even exist. Everything was in the private, basically. There was no public. The only thing that, I mean, there literally was no public. I mean, I've read old books and old stories where you can go up to the White House and just knock on the front door and Lincoln would just open the door and say hi to you. And if you had some concerns, he would just listen to you right there. There was no such thing as public versus private. It didn't exist. So, I mean, maybe it did, but it was like 1/10 of 1% of everything that was going on. It was like nowadays there's so much of it because the government's gotten so big and it's gotten its dirty hands into everything. But prior to the 14th Amendment, no one would even talk about that because it's so insignificant. It's like talking about, I don't know, something that hardly anybody ever even comes in contact with in their whole life in North America. So why talk about it, right? So if I have a breakdown here, if the 14th Amendment is acknowledged as having never been existed in the first place, all prisoners that have been convicted of victimless crimes, which are probably a disproportionate number of black men, will be released from prison and their records will be scrubbed entirely. All driver's licenses will be null and void. There'll be no registration, DMV, smog checks, traffic police, etc. Income tax and the IRS will be entirely abolished instantly. And when I say instantly, I mean literally instantly. The entire IRS will be instantaneously evaporated from the earth. The CIA, FBI, ATF, police, the entire police force, and all other law enforcement agencies will be instantaneously liquidated. Now, they can all be merged into the sheriff's office. So if people are concerned about, well, we don't want that, and a lot of the public doesn't want that, it's not a problem. It's just the sheriff's office would just get really fat overnight, basically, right? Federal Reserve notes will cease to exist, and the monetary system will be switched back to gold and silver coins instantly. There will be no promissory notes. What'll happen is that there's two different constitutions for most states. For example, in California, the first constitution, which is the unincorporated constitution, comes from 1849. The incorporated constitution comes from 1879, and the incorporated constitution of California was repealed in 1960. So we have a situation where the original 1849 Constitution of California says right in it that promissory notes and bills of exchange may not be used and circulated in the society as money, literally verbatim, in the original Constitution.
Wow.
These people knew. Everyone knew, bro. This is like, we all forgot. But between 1776 and 1850, people knew the dangers of allowing a promissory note bill of exchange system to become the monetary system in America. And it's all over the place. So you start reading a lot of the old stuff from 1776. A lot of them talk about paper money and how it's the most evil thing in the world. That's all going to be gone instantly. Not in a year, not over. I mean, we're talking literally, they put the stamp on the thing, they sign it, boom, instantaneously all of these things occur. All freedoms involving arms will be returned to the people, meaning any gun, any caliber, carried anywhere you want, as long as people are not being harmed. The firearm term was born out of the federal U.S. citizen category, and firearms is not a term that exists on the state citizen side of the ledger. State citizen side meaning what everyone was prior to the 14th Amendment.
That's right.
All business licenses, liquor licenses, barbershop licenses, medical licenses, et cetera, will all cease to exist instantly. There will be a renaissance of a true free market system. And I put a note here, all drugs will be legal to sell, grow, possess, etc. CPS and any child-related aspect of the court systems and government vanish instantaneously. The court systems will undergo massive changes and will revert back to the way they were before maybe 1850, meaning they will operate on local rules, customs, and concerns rather than by codes, which are often commercial in value, in nature. All the original state constitutions, which is probably not the version you've read, like, for example, in California, it'd be the 1849 Constitution, which you can't even find online. I had to go to a law library and actually find an old dusty book and have it photocopied, and then I scanned it and put it on my website, which you can actually access from my Williams & Williams lawfirm.com website. Those original state constitutions will be the active ones, and they will actually be the only body of law in each of the individual 50 states. And you'll have to read those and to understand those better, because each of the 50 states are independent nation states, sort of like each of the countries in the European Union are all separate countries. Through this whole brainwashing, whatever, we've gotten to the point now where we think that it's all just kind of like subsections of a larger country. That's not the way it worked before the 14th Amendment. So California and New Mexico are the same thing as saying France and Italy. I believe France and Italy are right next to each other. So it's the same idea. New Mexico and California is France and Italy. That's how the original structure was. And once the 14th Amendment is acknowledged to have never been existed in the first place, that is what we will have. Okay. all corporate states. So the businesses called State of California, State of Texas, State of New Hampshire, State of Oklahoma, all those businesses, including the business called County of Los Angeles, including the business called City of Los Angeles, all of those corporations or businesses will instantaneously be wiped off the face of the earth. And the District of Columbia will still exist, but it will exist as a completely foreign country. It'll be like Scotland. Yes, it'll be right in the fucking heart of our country physically, but it will be as foreign to us as Antarctica or Japan. It'll have absolutely nothing to do with the United States of America.
Certainly.
And that's awesome. What'll happen if the 14th Amendment is acknowledged to have never been properly ratified. Now, the Chevron Doctrine did a teeny bit of that. And it is a pretty cool thing, and it is a pretty big blow to the system, but it's nothing compared to the 14th Amendment.
Right. So
if the 14th Amendment got pulled, there is no U.S. citizen. If you say you're a U.S. citizen, that doesn't even have a meaning anymore. It means nothing. It has no definition.
So what are your thoughts on like a technological currency like crypto, or say like Bitcoin or something down those lines? Personally, I'm on the fence with the whole notion of a digital currency being valuable. I understand the principles and I understand why Bitcoin is valuable. But I also understand that if something ever happens and the lights go out for any extended period of time, that Bitcoin doesn't mean shit. And, even if they eventually come back on, it's like traffic in a 30-lane highway got reduced to 1 lane. It's going to take a really long time to get where you're going, to get back to that Bitcoin. So I personally...
Cryptocurrency is not money. It never will be money. Money is only and exclusively definable as gold and silver coins. So the cryptocurrency by definition is essentially just an exchange token. It's like when you go to like Dave & Buster's and you get a little card and you put money on it, and then now you have instead of the Federal Reserve notes, you have Dave & Buster tickets or points or whatever.
Right.
It's the same idea. You're getting a Dave & Buster's card. It's the same idea.
Right. And the only reason it's valuable is because a bunch of people got together and said, "Hey, this is valuable." So it is.
Yeah, it's not money, and it loosely could be considered currency or funds, but really it's the more proper way to describe it would be like a Dave & Buster's tickets or Dave & Buster points.
So then do you think we're headed more in a decentralized direction overall or the other?
I think we're headed towards a pre-1850 America. I think we're headed towards the destruction of the 14th Amendment. And that's the spearhead of my movement.
I love it. I love it. I know
once the 14th Amendment is removed or obliterated, we're talking 97% of everything that ails this country will be instant. And I don't mean like 6 months later or 1 year later or 10. I mean literally instantly fixed. Instantly. If it's 7 p.m. on October 19th at 7:01, 97% of every issue in this entire country is wiped, obliterated off the face of the earth.
Well, there's no more debt because there's no more Federal Reserve to owe it to.
There's no more U.S. citizen. There's the prison systems are 96% of the entire prison system is instantaneously evacuated. All the prisons are no longer incorporated. They're no longer businesses. So they have to completely restructure. They'll be back underneath the Department of Justice. So there'll be a full restructuring of the ownership of prisons. I can't even. The list that I gave you guys earlier is just a short. It's just a short list. The list is much longer than the one I gave you.
If you enjoyed the following clip from the Uber Mentioned podcast, like, subscribe, and check out the whole episode in the links below.